in the morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank on the Voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. And it is time now for our interview segment. Our interviews are presented by Marcus & Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Of course, it is Friday, so joining us in studio, Bob Pollock of the Indiana County Extension Office. Bob, good to see you.
Good to see you, Josh. And how's it going?
It's going well. If anyone out there has any questions for Bob, and we encourage you to do so, please call in right now, 724-479-1160, 724-349-WCCS. Bob, ready, willing, and able to listen to you and to get questions from you. But I got to say, we're now into kind of the late growing season for a lot of different plants, and this is about harvest time because I am now starting to get from friends and neighbors zucchini. You know it. And I have this I got a gigantic one. It's so big I don't know what to do with it. I can't put it through the spiralizer to create noodles out of it. It's too big to make zucchini boats. I'm afraid I'm just going to have to dice it up and stir fry it.
You might have to do that.
But it's kind of amazing. I mean, we get to see this surge in the home gardening, especially when it comes to plants like zucchini or green peppers or tomato plants or cabbages. This is true harvest time right now.
Right. Yeah. Depending on when you planted, how early you planted, you might have already have harvested some crops, but now some of the main crops are coming into play. And, of course, zucchini, they can go from tiny almost overnight to
gigantic.
Yeah, to jumbo size. So that's a crop you really have to keep after and watch every day and harvest pretty regularly, if you want to harvest a lot of smaller, 6 to 7 inch long fruit, and of course the fancy fruit are a little bit smaller and thinner, and then you get into the mediums, and then of course you get into the oversized ones.
Yeah, I guess I'm just used to working with the medium-sized plants.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I make noodles out of them, and I think that's a pretty good snack right there. But again, big time now harvesting season, but people should also have in mind probably what should be coming up for fall.
Right. If you've August, a lot of times the end of July into the first part of August, you would be either sowing seeds or have grown some transplants to put in the ground for fall crops, especially some of the cool season crops. We can usually get, a spring harvest in of those cool season crops, and then, once we get those planted, and then when it gets warmer and past the danger of frost, then we're putting in the warm season crops, which the tomatoes, the peppers, the vine crops, and so now you're starting to get the melons, watermelons, and you see a lot more of those around now, and then even harvesting tomatoes at this point, and then if you want to extend that season and you can come back in and plant those cool season crops, the broccolis, the cabbage, the cauliflower, and have those for fall season.
I bet that's something a lot of backyard gardeners don't even think about because of the fact they think they plant something like broccoli or a plant that is meant to be sturdier and hardier than what you would plant in the summer months. That they got a second shot at this. Because with the summer plants, you only get one shot, especially in our neck of the world.
Right. Yeah. The growing season. Those plants are 100 days or longer to maturity, so we can only get one crop of those. But some of these other ones that are 45-day, the lettuces is another one. Radishes, all those might be 40, 45, 50-day crops, so that you can plant those. And I think one of the reasons we may not think about that or do that if we're not used to doing it or if we're newer to gardening is there aren't usually plants available. Usually there's a big push in the spring, and all the transplants are available then, and then we don't really have if you want to start them in the summer, you've got to either plant your own seeds plant your own seeds in the garden,
Yeah.
or plant your seeds to grow your own transplants for that fall planting.
So the best thing to do if somebody wants to get like a second crop going of a colder weather plant is to just kind of keep it off to the side in its own little area where it can be transplanted later on. Maybe like an earthen pot of some sort, like
and you can,
you know what I'm talking about,
you can easily
right?
get, trays and cell packs and those, and you can start those seeds indoors, or you can start them, on the back porch or wherever to get those growing, so that you can start and have those ready to plant out.
All right, we do have a caller on the line. Caller, go ahead. Bob's listening.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
I have a question. Do you know what kind of petunias those are that are in the hanging baskets on Philadelphia Street? They don't look like they have to be deadheaded at all. Mine in the ground, that's all I've done all summer long. Every day I have to deadhead them.
So a type of petunia then is what. Let me see if I can open the window for Bob. Maybe there's a hanging basket right outside.
We'll have to ask the people that planted those for sure to make sure what varieties those are, because I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm sure we can find that out. And
we could probably find that out. We'll get back in touch with you.
Yeah.
So if you want to call back after our segment, ma'am, that way we can get your contact information, and Bob will be able to answer that question for you. So if you call us right around the top of the hour, would you be willing to do that?
I'll do that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, there are petunia varieties that you really don't have to deadhead, and then some of the ones that have been around a lot longer, those are still, there's some maintenance involved to keep those fresh and to keep them blooming. And that's another thing that happens this time of year is sometimes we get tired of plants, or we planted them in the spring. They've given us a good, especially flowers and flower pots. We've taken care of them up to this point, and now we're starting to wear down, and the days are starting to get shorter, and
we're starting to get tired of it.
Yeah, we're starting to get tired. So you may, let some of those go, or a lot of times the plants will wear out, and they might wear out just because, they're growing in a confined space. You might have those combined with other plants, other flowers in those pots.
And they're taking nutrients too.
Right, yeah, they're all working in there, and some will be more aggressive than others.
Okay.
And they may overtake some of those varieties. So, by the end of the summer, just from competition and growth habits, they may shade or outcompete some of those other varieties in there. And so you may be yanking those out and then also getting ready for, you might take everything out and put fall, you might pop some fall mums in there.
Yeah,
or
put some other plants in.
Or the colorful cabbage varieties and things like that signal fall, and we typically plant it.
Our caller mentioned a term.
Fall show.
Our caller mentioned a term that I had never heard of when it comes to gardening, and that is to deadhead something. What is that?
Well, that's just when the spent flowers. So you've got the plant flowers, and then those blooms, depending on the plant, might last a week or might last only a day or two. And so when they start to die and droop, then you deadhead those. You remove them.
Oh, okay. It's just removing that bud then.
Yep. Remove the spent flower, and then a lot of times, like on geraniums, that's something you have to do fairly regularly. There's a stalk that comes up, and then you've got the blooms on there. The blooms die, and then you still have that stem there. So you pinch that off, and then they'll continue to bloom, though. They'll make new blooms and keep that process going. But some varieties will kind of self-do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what she was mentioning about petunias. There's varieties they'll kind of
take care of themselves.
That,
okay.
and the others tend to hold on to that, and you just have this dead flower cluster there.
Speaking of other agriculture news, I'm sure that you've heard the big story when it comes to agriculture here in Indiana Borough, that being the goats on Vinegar Hill. I mean, you've been laughing about it, but they are halfway through their work, and it looks like they've been doing a great job. It kind of plays into the old cliche, goats will eat just about anything, but right now they're eating like invasive species, weeds, and other roughage along those hills, and they're doing a great job.
They're cleaning it off.
Yeah,
they are. They're doing their work.
And
just as advertised.
yeah, so they're going to continue with that next week. And this is kind of like the first I had ever heard of goats being used specifically for that purpose. Is that something that's very common?
It's become more common. I mean, that's just what they do. And so if you raise goats, then you know that. And if you've observed them over time, but, oftentimes there's not a lot of goat farms around, even around here. So it's not, you might be driving down the road and, you might, much more common to see sheep out pasturing than it is a herd of goats around here. But still, that's part of
that's part of what they do. That's part of how they live, I guess.
They're more cosmopolitan about their eating habits, and so which can be a good thing, and that, or if you have a few of them, that can help if you have a pasture, so that you don't have to mow, and then other animals are more selective in what they eat, and goats are less selective, so you can put some goats in there and help keep especially some of those unwanted plants or those weeds. A lot of times there are weeds that other animals will not eat. They'll go right around them and avoid them, and the goats will plow right through them.
All right. Well, Bob, we made it to the mark, but those were some very interesting topics today. Hey, thanks a lot for joining us once again.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Bob Pollock of the Indiana County Extension Office joining us on Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted Best Personal Injury Law Firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people.